We're going to look at how we evaluate functions in a programming context. What we're going to do is we're going to look at a few basic functions and we're going to combine them together in various ways as well to see how this works. And you'll get an understanding of how we apply functions within programs. So let's begin and just look at our basic set of functions that we have. This is a very simple functional programming environment. You can access it at this web address here. And I'm just going to go through now the different functions that we have. So first of all, we have double. What this does is it simply doubles the integer value that we input into it. Then we have square. Again, straightforwardly, it squares the value that we have here. So it can only be applied to integers in every case. Triple as well, which is also pretty self-explanatory. You can see what it's doing there. So 5 will become 15. Right, and then perhaps less familiar to you might be the successor value and the predecessor value. So successor value just simply adds a value to our integer. So if we've got successor and then we add 5, the next value on that will be 6, and then we can use the predecessor value, the predecessor integer, and then we evaluate that. That should be 4. So you can see that functions all been applied to our integers. So that's just a single function being applied to our integers there. What we can do is we can combine those functions together. We can create what we call composite functions. So let's just have a bit of a play with this. So if we were to do pred 5 there, that will give us 4. And now if we square that value, so square the value that comes out from that. So what we're doing is we're essentially applying functions. The return of this function, the result of this function gets put as input into this function here. So we're going to take the pred of 5, which is 4, and then we square that value, which is going to give us 16, right? And we can continue adding more functions on top of this to make it more complex. So if we do double again, we could do that. So double square pred, you can see how what we're getting now. So that should be 32 when we evaluate that. And we can also use the same value again if we wish to. So we could use pred here again. So now we should get 31. So what we can do is we can keep adding as many of those different functions onto the front of that. So just how this works is that it applies one function at a time, but then returns that value, and then the next function then is applied to that return value. And so that way you're able to apply multiple functions in a composite way together in this context. I'm going to do a worked example evaluating the expression stated here. So the first thing we do is starting on the right hand side, is we do the evaluation of that first, the most right hand side function. So that's the pred. So we do pred 5, the preceding value of 5, which gives us 4. Then we take the result of that and then apply the square function to that. So we square now the value of 4. And the result of that then, we apply the double function to that. So we're applying double to the result of square 4, which is 16. So we're now doubling that. So double 16, which gives us 32. And then we apply the succeeding function to the number 32, which then just adds 1 to that and gives us 33. So the expression now is evaluated as 33, but hopefully you can see the steps now how that works.